This series analyzes the Emerald Tablet. I use the earliest known Arabic version in translation, assuming a Greek original. The tablet refers to a perspective, a theory centered on a force capable of producing wonders, miracles. These parts are best understood if we assume that the text essentially follows Anaxagorian concepts, which can themselves be seen as a continuation of the thought of Parmenides. Moreover, the text places greater emphasis here on the realms of above and below than we find elsewhere. The tablet also makes use of certain additions and rephrasing that are familiar from the teachings of Plotinus. Who were these philosophers? In what ways did they try to understand the world? And how can the Emerald Tablet be interpreted in light of their ideas? And what does the one mentioned repeatedly in the third line actually mean? The tablet takes for granted that the theory of Anaxagoras was partly a response to the ontological arguments and conclusions of Parmenides. Flourishing in the early 5th century BCE, Parmenides of Ilia from southern Italy denied the existence of time, void, and true plurality. Therefore, reality is continuous, undivided, and unchanging. He argued that being alone exists, while non-being cannot even be thought or spoken of. The world is not composed of many things, but is instead one, whole, and complete, like the bulk of a well-rounded sphere. For Parmenides, what is real must be eternal, imperishable, and homogeneous. So only reality exists. He wrote, "What is, what is not, is not." He distinguished between the way of truth, where thought and speech must follow the path of what is, and the way of opinion, where mortals err in believing in birth, change, and multiplicity. For Parmenides, the concepts of the one and truth are intrinsically linked. To know truly is to recognize that only being exists, indivisible and immutable. Anaxagoras was born a few years after Parmenides. They may even have met when Parmenides came to Athens with Zeno, themes for his paradoxes, as a part of an embassy from Ilia. Anaxagoras accepted Parmenides' basic principle: nothing comes from nothing and nothing perishes into nothing. But instead of reducing reality to a static unity, he redefined the structure of being so that plurality and change could still be explained without invoking non-being. According to Anaxagoras, the material world has two key principles: infinite divisibility. Matter has no smallest parts, but can always be divided further. This means there is no absolute void separating things. Second, everything is in everything. Every substance already contains a portion of all others. Thus, when something appears to come into being, it is not created from nothing, but becomes manifest because certain portions come to predominate. However, unlike the eternal and undifferentiated being of Parmenides, Anaxagoras introduced the distinct, immaterial principle called Nous, meaning mind, which set the primordial mixture into motion and imposed order. Nous is unmixed, pure, and sovereign, providing a way to account for motion and cosmic structure without appealing to non-being. Some fragments of Anaxagoras on the creation of the world provide insight into how Nous operates. In the beginning, there was a mixture of seeds without any form. All things were together infinite in respect of both number and smallness. There was not even any color plane. The mixture had seeds countless in number, mind began to rotate in the beginning. In the beginning, the moist and the dry, the hot and the cold, the bright and the dark were all together in the mixture. Mind arranged them all, including this rotation. And this rotation caused the separating off. And the dense is separated off from the rare, the hot from the cold, the bright from the dark, and the dry from the moist. In the beginning, nothing was visible because of their smallness, for air and ether colored all things, both of them being infinite. For these are the greatest ingredients in the mixture of all things, both in number and in size. As mind started the rotation, the dense and the moist and the cold and the dark came together here where the earth now is, while the rare and the hot and the dry went outwards to the further part of the ether. First, ether separated from the mixture, then the air, and water is separated off from the clouds, earth from the water, and from earth, stones are solidified by cold. Nous has total control over the seeds and total knowledge. Mind knows everything. The things that are mingled and separated and divided off are all known by mind. And all things that were to be, all things that were but are not now, all things that are now or that shall be. Seven centuries after Anaxagoras, in the 3rd century CE, the concept of Nous once again played a significant, though not central, role in the theories of Plotinus, the founder of Neoplatonism. Plotinus spent a decade in Alexandria as a disciple of Ammonius Saccas. According to his biographer, when Plotinus returned to Rome, he said that he followed the teachings of Ammonius and presented nothing new, except for offering a more precise explanation of his master's thought. Since Ammonius himself left no writings, we cannot know with certainty what originated with him and what belongs to Plotinus. Plotinus envisioned the universe as a hierarchical structure whose ultimate reality is the One, or the Good, which is the source of all beings and transcends description and understanding. Within this hierarchy, the One is the highest and most perfect. The first emanation of the One is the mind, Nous, which in turn emanates the word soul, psyche. The lowest level of emanation is nature. For Plotinus, the distinction between the intelligible upper realms, the One, the Nous, and the soul, and the sensible lowest realm, namely nature, is absolutely central. The intelligible realm is site of true being, truth. This sensible world, by contrast, is known only through opinion or perception, which are unstable and unreliable. It is a realm of images and appearances, derivative of and dependent on the higher reality. He said, the things of this world are shadows and sketches of those in the higher realm, and this lower reality depends upon that higher one. Parmenides thought that only being exists, eternal, unchanging, and one. Anaxagoras accepted this principle but accounted for motion and plurality through Nous, the power of mind that set the cosmos in motion and order. Centuries later, Plotinus placed Nous within a vast hierarchy. The One is the highest, and it emanates Nous, which emanates the word soul, which in turn emanates nature. In the theories of these three philosophers, we can recognize many concepts that closely resemble those found in the text of the tablet. The next part explores how their ideas appear in the text of the Emerald Tablet, along with certain changes. And there is also the question of how all this relates to the creation, activation, and miraculous workings of the Philosopher's Stone.